All right. Week 6 roundup, guys. 3 games settled by less than 15 points, and two were blowouts settled by 69 or more points. Sheck continued his rocky start by losing to the Birdman 104-90. Sheckton's Bengals defense scored him -4 points. It had to be some salt in the wound of what was a pretty shitty day at the office. Injuries and byes ravaged his lineup. His bench, I think, scored 4 points because either they were out or on a bye. So he didn't really have a lot of choices. Had to dump some people, had to bring some slack in, and the lineup shifts just didn't pay off at all. And the 3 subs that he brought in to kind of make up for the byes only amassed 11 points. So it's just a rough day for Sheck. Meanwhile, Bird pulled out a win despite another relatively lackluster performance. He only had one player that scored 20 points. Nobody scored more than 20 points. But a fun fact for you, if Chase could have played his 5 wide receivers, if that was somehow a legal lineup to have all 5 of his receivers starting, he still would have beaten Sheckton 94-90. There's some serious points going up on the board by the wide receivers this week, and Chase kind of capitalized on that. Next up, Brad beat up on J-Ball 118-108. Brad had the pick of the QB ball this week. He had Tom Brady scoring 34 points and Joe Flacco scoring 35. If we were in a 2-quarterback league, Brad probably would have ran away with it. He also had 4 players scoring single digits, but a big 23-point day from a combined kicker and defense secured what was a narrow win. J-Ball showed signs of life with quarterback Phillip Rivers scoring 28 points. Wide receiver Torrey Smith and wide receiver Anquan Bolden also combined for a total of 43. But he had 4 players score 5 points or less. If J-Ball had started Brandon Marshall instead of Keenan Allen, Jay would have won 120-118. So there's some potential there. It's, again, like we talked about, lots of highs and lows, peaks and valleys for J-Ball's team. It doesn't seem like that's going to stop for him. But at least it's good to know that you could have won this week, I guess. After trade apocalypse, Tom handed his younger brother Jordan his first loss of the season, beating him 131-124. Tom's the only had 1 player in single digits, and that was his kicker, so that's kind of expected. Billy Cundiff, he only scored 8 points, so he wasn't even far off from double digits. His new arrivals from the Super Trade, quarterback Peyton Manning and running back Lamar Miller combined for 39 points, and may have been the difference in what was a 7-point matchup, so maybe the trades really worked out early for Tommy Gregg. The quarterback continues to be a relative weak point in Jordan's team, as Ben Roethlisberger ruined both of our weekends by going 21 for 42 for 228 yards, a touchdown, and an interception in what was an embarrassingly disgusting loss to the Browns. That earned Porge only 13 fantasy points, and that led to a dud for Pittsburgh tight end Heath Miller, who only put up 3 fantasy points. So putting faith in the Berg did not pay off for Porge this weekend. Basically, if he had made any other choice at quarterback, he probably would have won this matchup. Sorry, man. We fucked you. I put up a 69-point victory over Z, the only person in the league likely to find the humor in the number 69, maybe as amusing as winning the game, because get it, sex, you know. But I had a top-heavy day. Running backs Matt Forte and Arian Foster combined for 65 points. Touchdown apiece for wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin and tight end Greg Olsen in the Carolina game helped seal the day. Then I had straight lucky 7s in my flex, my defense, and the kicker. So the bottom was 7-7-7. That's when I knew I was going to be all right. Z only had 3 players score 16 or more points, and one of them was his kicker. When your kicker is one of your leading scorers, you know it's not going to be a good day. Without a 22-point day from wide receiver Steve Smith, Zach probably would have only scored an embarrassing 55 points or so. Also, leaving wide receiver T.Y. Hilton's 37 points on the bench would have probably been costly in most weeks, but I guess there's a kind of cloud to that silver lining in the sense that I just beat the fuck out of you, and so that way the 37 points didn't really matter. Even if you had them, you would have lost. And finally, we have the trade whore, Richard Sharp, just waving his little trade punani all over the place, offering trades, making trades, just doing whatever he can. And you know what? The shrimpy little motherfucker got the big win this week. He beat Barron 161 to 86, nearly doubled his opponent's score, and scored the highest points total in any game so far this season. So Richard Sharp, trade whore extraordinaire, you win the weekly beer. Now, Sharp, if you notice here, I have the new Game of Thrones beer. It is fully corked. I will be drinking it and partaking in it tonight. I will send you photographic evidence, but this one will go out to you since we had an adventure trying to find the first one. I thought you'd appreciate the little sentimentality for my once a housemate, all right? Now, on to business. Sharp had 4 players score over 20, and only 2 of his players scored in single digits. He had a wishy-washy day at quarterback, but those needs were addressed by picking up Tony Romo in this waiver week. And if his running back, Brandon there, if he proves to be the real deal, this team could become very dangerous. Flex positions may become a concern for Sharp because when wide receiver A.J. Green returns, it'll probably take some of the touches away from Mohamed Sanu. But other than that, this team looks pretty solid now for what was one of the shittiest ones a week ago. Moving and shaking has really actually improved this team quite a bit, assuming that running back is who we think he is. But all around, it was a nice week out for Lady Macbeth. Toast, buddy. Now, Barron, on the other hand, he had 5 starters score in the single digits. 4 of them scored 2 points or less. And in fact, if you add all of his bench players together, he had 8 players in single digits, and 7 of them scored less than 4 points. This is a weak team due to injuries right now. Wide receivers A.J. Green and Calvin Johnson need to come back ASAP for Barron to make a late playoff push. Or if Tom wants to offer a trade for it, you need to get some major value because those are your 2 cogs in this piece, Barron. So let's see what you can do. Big news this week, playoffs moved to 6 teams. It is now statistically harder. The odds are against you to make the playoffs because against you to not make the playoffs. Only 4 teams will miss the playoffs this year. So the majority of us will be in the playoffs. That means J-Ball could actually do something more difficult than the rest of us in not making the playoffs. The way it'll work is the top 2 seeds will get a bye. Seeds 3, 4, 5, and 6 will play each other in the first week of the playoffs. The way that it should be set up and the way that I'm planning on, unless you guys have a major issue with this, is that the conference champs should be your 2 top seeds. But I'll have to check. It might just auto-do it to best record, or it might just auto-do it to conference champs. I don't know if I can change that yet, but that's kind of my thought process on it. As of right now, I am the last undefeated team left in the league, and I face what is probably a dangerous trap game against J-Ball, in which he will probably beat me, and I will look like an asshole for making fun of him this week. Jordan leads the Caroline Street division with a 5-1 record, and Tom and Brad are the 3 and 4 seeds respectively with a 4-2 and 3-3 record apiece. Z's 3-3 record gets him the 5 seed right now due to total points scored as the tiebreaker. He has scored less than Brad has. And Sharp, the trade whore, has sneaked into the 6th spot with a 2-3-1 record. And that is because he has the tiebreaker over Chase by scoring more points. That said, everybody is still in it. I think nobody is more than a game and a half outside of playoff contention. And we still have 7 weeks to go before the playoffs begin. So anything can happen. Buys continue for the next couple of weeks, so make sure you check your lineups, Barron. And the trade deadline is November 12th, so if Sharp wants to trade the rest of his team, he only has about a month left to do it. Deuces, fuckers.